publishing, he is truly one of the few seasoned book industry professionals out there. Today, we're going to be talking about he's got two new releases. The one is Lover's Moon, and the other one is the Canadian Mounted, a trivia guide to planes, trains, and automobiles. Don't go away. We'll be right back with the Writer's Corner live show. Just joined us, then a hearty big warm welcome to the Writer's Corner live show. We come to you every Tuesday at the same time. So if you're not following us and if you've just followed us, thank you so much. We are truly, truly grateful. I'm coming to you live from Cape Town in South Africa, and my co-host is live from the United States. And our guest today is in Canada. Oh my goodness, I just love what we do. Our amazing guest today is Mark Leslie. So a shout out if this is the first time that you're watching the show. We've been doing this for over 4.5 years. And our live stream is brought to you by BeLive Media, Creative Edge, and StreamYard. So whether you're watching us over on Amazon Live, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitter, whichever platform you are watching us on, a hearty warm welcome. Now, one of the things that we're very passionate about doing on the show is teaching authors how to level up. Thanks to the pandemic, you are no longer limited to sharing your books only from your local library or in your local location where you are. You can now speak to your audience wherever the internet is available. And isn't that wonderful? We've just gotten so much speaking on camera and talking about your books. And so here's just a few tips for you if you are sharing, if you are talking about your books online. Now, most of you, if you're doing TikTok or Instagram, you'd be holding your phone in portrait mode. And I keep saying that this is portrait mode. So it's a quick tip. If you're not doing TikTok or Instagram, if you're doing YouTube or Facebook Live or any of the other platforms, turn your phone the other way, landscape mode, and then you use full phone real estate. It makes it easy to hold your book and show that to people. Now, the ideal thing for you is to use a tripod. And if you're over on Amazon Live, I've been a couple of suggestions for you for tripods. I mean, they're a dime a dozen. You can, gosh, there's just such a huge selection for you. But if you're traveling, if you're in a hotel somewhere and you think, my goodness, I've forgotten my tripod at home, here's a quick hack. Literally take your phone, use some sticky tape, press stick, whatever you've got available there, and stick your phone on the nearest window. The great thing about that is that you're going to have your phone at a 90-degree angle, which is perfect. Plus, you're going to have front-facing light, and you're not going to have to hold your phone in your hand and make your audience feel seasick. And you can comfortably focus on talking about your book to your audience. So that's a quick hack. The other thing is that you want to make sure that your audio is good. And to do that, there's a ton of microphones. Take your pick. I like these lavalier microphones. The Rode one is my favorite, but again, they are a dime a dozen. And if all else fails, these are my favorite earphones. Just pick up a pair of earphones and they'll take care of feedback as well, so you don't have feedback or picking up noise in the background. So again, really just take your pick with what you like about, earphones. So those are quick tips for you. So I'm going to now welcome my amazing friend and co-host, Mary Elizabeth Jackson. Mary is a certified special needs and disabilities advocate. She's a ghostwriter, a podcaster, and an award-winning author in her own right. And go check out her latest book, Cheers from Heaven. Mary, How are you today?
I am fantastic. I am fantastic. So excited to be here and so excited to have our guest that we have on today. We love Mark. We're big fans of his and can't wait to talk about his new book. And I'm bundling up and you're warm. And so that's kind of cool that we are in the same place at the same time through technology. And we just love it, don't we?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, it is so hot in Cape Town at the moment, and I can see that you're warmly dressed. As always,
Yes.
we have the
Yes.
complete opposite.
I know. Yeah, I know. We're usually dressed opposite. So, it's okay though. But the beauty of technology brings us together. And we've been doing the show for so long. We just met the most incredible people over the years. And, Mark is nothing less than absolutely amazing. We just need to jump right in and bring him on and hear about his new book. I'm so excited.
I am, we've had Mark on the show a couple of times. So for those of you who have not yet met Mark, he's obviously a writer and a very good writer at that. He's also an editor. He's a professional speaker. And I've got to give him kudos today because, sometimes life happens and we have to reschedule. And Mark is not feeling well today, but he showed up. So, kudos to him. Just huge, big shout out to him for being able to show up, even though he's not feeling very well. He's also a self-admitted book nerd, he said. And he said his first short story appeared in 1992. Now, Mark has published more than 25 books under the name of Mark Leslie. He's also published under the name Mark Leslie Lefebvre. Now, I probably butchered his name, and I apologize for doing that. He writes books that helps authors navigate the business of writing and publishing. He's also done a couple of anthologies. So with that, shall we just give a big warm welcome to our friend Mark Leslie, shall we?
Ooh, don't you feel so excited when that music plays, Mark?
Oh my goodness, of course. Yeah. And I wasn't feeling well, but chatting with you two always makes me feel that much better. So
Oh,
here
we
we
just
are.
love you. We just love you. I just wish we could meet in person, and then that would be so fun, right?
Yeah. But we're in 3 different countries, just chatting away.
I know. That's right. We're representing the world, aren't we, today? Yes, the happy
Kind of,
place
yeah,
of the world. That's what we're representing.
that's right.
I know, and it just feels like we're sitting around the table and just having some coffee. And I wish I could say coffee and
Yes.
donuts, but alas, I don't have any donuts today.
Then you're very cliche. So,
Mark, with so many books to your name, over 30 books that you've published, you're such a seasoned writer. Can you tell us a little bit about how becoming a published writer and a seasoned one that has impacted your career? How has it changed life for you?
Well, I mean, I have less rejections now than well, actually, that's not true. I still have rejections. I just have rejections plus publications. I think the biggest thing is, I've always wanted to be a storyteller, always wanted to be a writer. The biggest thing, and this is the thing that just makes my day every single time it happens, is hearing from somebody who's read something that I've written, whether it was a book for writers where I hear from another writer who says, thank you, it really helped. Whether it was fiction, I helped someone escape and enjoy themselves, or even people, commenting on and leaving reviews or sharing my latest book. I mean, to know that you've connected with someone else in that oh so intimate level that happens when somebody reads a book, it's a very intimate thing, is such a deep and meaningful part of my life now, and it never gets old. When somebody shares that they liked something that you've read and they reach out to you and feel like they're connected to you, that never gets old. Just like, seeing that latest book come out. It's just this beautiful, wonderful experience every time it happens.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Now, on the other side of that, do you think that all writers should aim to be published? And what would you say are the benefits of being able to say you're published as an author?
I think all writers should aim to write the stories and the books that resonate deep within their heart, deep within their soul, something that feels meaningful to them. Because the one thing I can guarantee, the one guarantee you have in the publishing world, whether you're traditionally published or whether you self-publish, is I can guarantee you that there's no guarantees for success. And so spending all of the time and energy and your blood, sweat, and tears writing something that doesn't mean anything is potentially a waste of time, because it's very likely it's not going to get noticed. It's not going to get picked up. It's not going to get read. And so I always look at creating something that's meaningful to me, so that even if, and again, I've got books out there that are there and maybe haven't really been well read or that well discovered, but I had such a great time writing them and creating them. And then the magic happens when you write something that is truly personal and passionate and very much niche market. When I focus on one reader and I think about what that one reader would like, those tend to be the successful ones. And I hearken back to Stephen King, who, when Stephen King writes, he's relatively successful. Let's give him that. He writes for one single reader, Tabitha King. Will Tabby like this book or not? And that's his driving factor. He's focusing on one reader. So when he addresses constant reader in his notes at the end of the books, he's talking to Tabitha. He's talking to millions and millions of other readers, but he's focusing on that one reader, and that seems to be a part of the success. So I always say, since there are no guarantees as a writer, when you focus on that niche and you focus on that, what is this one reader that I'm thinking of going to experience, you may find the best success, because even if it doesn't sell 1 million copies, it was a great experience while you were doing it.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I was just thinking about, as you were saying, it never gets old when you release a new book. And I thought it's pretty much like, when you're having a child, when you're adding someone to your family. Every time, you add a new child, it's not like, oh, well, this one's not special because, the other one was better. You know about making a new addition to your family, and pretty much with a book, doesn't matter if you have, we've had people that's published over 100 books, and they keep saying that exhilaration of a new book coming out is special every single time, because it's special for a different reason. If you had to start over, Mark, with the amount of publishing that you've done, do you have any advice for an aspiring author out there that wants to publish or hesitates? Because everybody, when they start, it's releasing something very personal in the world. It's releasing your thoughts into the world. And so a lot of people hold back from doing that. So what would you say to anyone out there that's still hold back on letting go of their story, or waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect edit? What do you want to say to that person?
Two things is be patient, because sometimes it takes longer than you first expect. Be patient with yourself. It is hard. The very first time you put writing out into the world, you send it to an editor, you publish it yourself, you send it to a second person just to read because you've never done that before. It's terrifying. I had a good friend of mine, a Canadian science fiction author, Julie Cherneda, in an interview I remember, she had just released her first novel from Daw Books, and she said publishing fiction was like standing naked on the front lawn. You felt completely exposed to the entire world. And so be patient with yourself, and just remember, I go back to Seth Godin, and when I think about this, is that the difference between done is, and I'm messing it up probably, we'll call it COVID brain right now, but continuing to try and improve and improve and improve and make it 100% perfect. It's never going to get perfect. And that's where I guess that perfection is the enemy of done, of actually just getting to a point where you're like, okay, it's time to release this. It's time to share this with the world. It may not be perfect, but it was perfect for that moment. And because that's just the first thing. And there may be other things that you write, and there's going to be things that you improve. I go back and look at stuff I published years ago, and I see things I would have done differently or changed or updated, but you just keep getting back into it, and you just keep going. So don't give up on yourself, and do be patient with the process, and be patient with yourself, even if you make mistakes along the way. And I've made tons of them.
That's such good advice, because the patience is the key to. It's one of the keys, obviously, in the writing world. And, as soon as we write something, we're ready for it to be out there in the world. We're done. We're like, okay, but it's not the way it works. So, and you and I have had this conversation before. We've actually had a meeting about it. With all the books that you publish, you and I've had this conversation, traditional versus self-publishing. So for those folks out there watching who may not have heard you talk about that or know what your thoughts are, can you share those with us? What do you think? Because I know what you think, but what can you share with others what you think?
So a book to be published by a publisher usually means the publisher's investing time, energy, and money in you. And they probably need to sell a minimum of 1,000 copies to make their money back. When you're self-publishing, it doesn't have to be as big of an audience. It could be a more niche market. Maybe you only have to sell 100 copies to make back the investment. But the key thing, whether you're traditionally publishing or self-publishing, is the only difference between traditionally published and self-published, if you do it properly, is self-directed. That when I'm self-publishing, it's not just me doing everything. It's me taking the ownership and the responsibility of the publisher, meaning hiring the right cover designer, professional cover designer, not trying to do it myself in Microsoft Paint. It's hiring an editor, somebody who can work with me to refine my words, because as good as we are, as great as we are at working at the craft of writing, we always benefit from having that second set of eyes that can give us feedback and help us refine that voice. So whether it's traditionally published, whether it's self-published, I think the important element is you still need to do that editorial level. No, you're not getting that same slush pile and rejection, but there's still that refining process that happens in publishing, I think, is critical. So yes, it's done. I can push a button and publish it, but that's where you may want to step back and just take a breath and wonder, am I ready for people to see this? Or am I ready to give this to an editor first before I push it out into the world? Because sometimes you only have one chance to make a first impression, right?
Absolutely. I like the points that you mentioned are all great points for people to consider. So if you've just joined the show and you missed those points that Mark made about traditional publishing versus self-publishing, you want to just catch play and go through those, because it's quite a decision to be making. And I love that you said, it's taking responsibility for what your publisher would do if you self-publish. That's a very good way of putting it. Now, you've put out 2 books in like just a short space of time. You've got Lover's Moon, also the Canadian Mounted, a trivia guide to planes, trains, and automobiles. Hold on a second. I'm going to put you on full screen so you can show those covers.
Okay. There's that. Oh,
there we go.
Yeah. So this is a novel. This is a paranormal romance novel co-authored with Julie Strauss. And this is a trivia guide to one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite movies, if you're a big fan of planes, trains, and automobiles, you may recognize this. Looks remarkably like the pornographic novel that Del Griffith, John Candy, was reading at the airport in New York when the two of them first officially meet. But it's not a pornographic novel. This is my passion project. This is my love for this movie, which celebrates its 35th anniversary this November. It was originally released November 25th, 1987. And this is a trivia guide to my favorite movie of all time.
Oh wow! So it's no accident that you actually had had it coincide with this particular time frame. Where did your
No, that
love
was
for that come from?
my love. I don't know. I really enjoy the mismatched odd couple nature of Steve Martin and John Candy in this film. I love the sidetrack. My very first published story in 1992 was called the Progressive Sidetrack. And I wrote it in 1988, which would have been a year after this movie came out. And it was about this misadventure of a teenage boy wanting to ask this girl out on a date, but he kept getting sidetracked. Just like Del and Neil in this movie are trying to get home to Chicago for Thanksgiving. The plane gets rerouted to Wichita, and it's all these sidetrack adventures that they have on their way home. And again, interestingly enough, and I'm only thinking about this now when you asked it, is yeah, I've always been fascinated by sidetracks. Even my Canadian Werewolf, the very first book in that series, is about this guy on his way somewhere and he gets sidetracked wanting to help people because he has superpowers and he can't help but do it. So I think there's something in the nature of that. But also, even though it's a screwball comedy with a lot of goofy things that happen, it has heart. I can't watch the movie without crying every single time. When you realize that these two mismatched people, they come together in such a beautiful way. And, obviously with the way that it ends and Neil welcomes Dell into his home for one of the most intimate experiences with his entire family, is just such a beautiful, beautiful moment. So how could you not love a film like that? I'm asking, how could you not love a film like that?
I know, right? I know. I love that. John Candy has always been one of my favorites, and Steve Martin. So, like, I was excited about you doing this book. I can't wait to read the book. I'm gonna go watch the movie again. I'm gonna make my kids watch it because my kids have never watched it. And we're going to do and we'll have to send you a video, Mark, like us watching and anything. Anyways, but I'm so
Make sure you
excited.
warn them
Can
about
you
that
read?
car rental scene, right? There's a lot of F-bombs in that scene.
Yeah. Well, we'll just kind of go through it, and I'll make sure my 9-year-old's doing something else and not watching. So, it's really odd when your kids get older and they're young adults and they go back and you watch movies with them, and you're like, oh, okay, so you're old enough. I'm so not comfortable sitting here watching this with you right now.
Yeah.
So, can you read us a little snippet from your
Yeah.
newest book?
Yeah, sure. So this is from the introduction. The introduction is the most unique moments in life can come from the most unexpected tangents on the journey. It has happened to all of us at one time or another. We have a simple plan of getting somewhere or accomplishing something. It's one of those many point A to point B things. And if it were to go off the way we initially intended, it would be one of thousands of happenstance moments that pass us by and are forgettable. But the universe has other plans for us. And therein lies an event that may seem frustrating while we're living through it, but becomes one of those unique stories we have in our quiver of tales that can be shared over the years at countless dinner parties and social gatherings. Or it might even be a life-altering experience. Hugh Neil Page, an uptight advertising executive who lives in Chicago but travels a lot for work. All he wants is to get home to his family for Thanksgiving. It's the type of commute he's done hundreds of times. Home to cab to airport, then airport to cab to office meeting, then the same pattern, repeated at the end of the day or week, depending on the specific business in question. It's a regular routine. Only this time, when his flight ends up rerouted to Wichita, Page finds himself reluctantly partnering with Del Griffith, an obnoxious yet personable and lovable traveling salesman. The two embark on a cross-country adventure that involves numerous modes of transportation, unexpected and hilarious mishaps, and an overall unforgettable odd couple-style adventure. Roger Ebert described Planes, Trades, and Automobiles as a screwball comedy with a heart. I describe it as a timeless classic that I've watched countless times over the years, at least once a year, if not more. My son, who's 18 at the time I'm writing this, has enjoyed the film with me many times over those recent years. Despite him growing up in a far more digitally connected world than the 1987 setting of the film, Neil and Del didn't have mobile phones or apps. There's no Uber, video chat, or easily available GPS options. The movie still resonates with them just as much. When my son and I embarked on a road trip in the summer of 2020 and experienced a series of delays and mishaps along the way, including an unfortunate breakdown of the RV we rented, Our memories of this movie actually helped. Despite the frustration of the delay that meant arriving home 24 hours later than intended, we joked about a few similarities of our misadventure. Also, in the middle of our situation, we snapped a photo that was a nod to Neil and Dell sitting outside the Braidwood Inn. But I haven't just bonded with my son over this film. It's one of those movies I can talk about with friends, both old and new. I'm pretty sure that one of the early connecting factors of someone I now count as a dear friend was a mutual love of the movie. The minute a line from this film came up in conversation, we both lit up, and the discussion became far more animated. Julie Strauss and I have been close friends ever since, and even co-authored Lover's Moon. That's the effect this movie can have. In the same way that Neil Page and Del Griffith connected in a meaningful way, I'm positive that countless others have leveraged their love and passion for this movie to bond together. And I suspect that you, dear reader, picked this book up because you hold the movie in a similar high regard. This book, which is being released for the 35th anniversary of the film's release, is a playful, deeper and longer look at the John Hughes classic starring John Candy and Steve Martin. And that look is, of course, filtered through a lifelong fan's eyes. It's an exploration and appreciation of the movie with a generous helping of adoration and respect. There's no review of the film itself, as well as scatterings of trivia and anecdotes. And yes, I know, as Neil Page says, that not everything is an anecdote. I did my best to discriminate and to choose ones that are funny or mildly amusing or interesting. I may even have found some that might be amusing accidentally. But as I said, I'm sure that if you've picked up this book, you likely have some sort of affinity or passion about planes, trains, and automobiles. And I truly hope that you enjoy this retrospective journey through the film as much as I have enjoyed collecting this information to share with you. So that's the introduction.
Bravo. I love it.
Bravo, Mark. I
love
can't
it.
believe you even managed to read us the introduction to your book, despite the fact that it's well. I totally appreciate you. At one point, I was feeling you reading and felt so bad that we even asked you to read. But
I'm
thank you.
It's all
sorry.
good. You can't shut me up even when my throat is this bad.
I know.
my
It
goodness.
was the same for me too. Thank you so much for joining us. We cannot wait to have you back on again because you are always producing and can't wait for the next. So, go get Mark's book. It's a great gift.
Yes,
Both of them are. Oh,
please.
and here I have my copy.
Please don't grab a copy.
There you go. Yeah, Lover's Moon. Yeah, of course.
Yes,
Gorgeous.
Yes.
Mark, what's next for you? I mean, do you ever take a break? Like,
No.
you've just published 2 books. Do you ever take a break?
No, actually, Julie and I are working on the next book in the Canadian Werewolf series called Hex and the City. I was actually working on that this morning, my version. We're tag teaming back and forth. And I went, oh my goodness, the reminder came up. I better stop writing so I can jump in this interview. And then I'm going to probably get back to writing it later this afternoon.
Oh,
So
we can't wait. We're so excited.
So the next book in the Mountie series, when is that due? When are you hoping to publish that?
The Ides of March. We have the release date for the Ides of March. Our editor gets it in January, so we've got to be finished it by mid-December so we can give it a couple passes before we hand it to our editor.
So you could take a holiday just yet. Oh my goodness, Mark.
Well,
thank
we hope you
so
feel
much.
better.
Yeah. Feel better soon. Thank you for showing up today. Totally appreciate you. And I just want to say to our audience out there, thank you for showing up today. Whichever of one of the platforms that you've supported us on for today, we totally appreciate you. Mary and I keep pinching ourselves when we think of how long we've done the Writers' Corner live show, and it never gets old. We enjoy this every single week, and whether we have authors like you come back from time to time, Mark, we enjoy talking to you because there's just so much to talk about. I always think after an interview, there's a gazillion things we could have asked about writing and being an author and publishing and, being a public speaker and all that, the stuff that you do. So a huge big shout out to you. Thank you for showing up today. Much appreciated. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully early next year when your next book is going to be. Thanks everyone for joining us. And we'll see you next week on the next episode of the Writers Corner live show. Take care and stay well.